Hello, crypto boys and ghouls. Welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play and earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to play a clip from last night's Splinterlands TV Twitch stream, where we took a moment to talk about my personal day 2 land strategy and what are the things that I'm going to be looking at to analyze, observe, and take action on. So without further ado, let's hop into the clip, and until next time, keep stacking those stats. My internet fan club had requested of me on YouTube to talk about my day 2 land strategy because, well, obviously they're very interested in what I have to say, apparently. So we're going to talk about it here on stream today for all of you Splinterlands TV fam out there, my personal day 2 land strategy. And I think what's interesting here is we have no idea what's going to happen with land. Anyone who says they know what's going to happen after land is released is lying to you, because we just don't know. We don't know how much is going to come online, how much DEC is going to get staked, how many cards are going to get staked, which cards are going to go where. It's just really going to be interesting. So my personal day 2 land strategy is going to be one of observation, analytics, and action. So what do I mean by all that? Well, I have a list of things here that I'm going to be doing on basically as soon as land is released after the first harvest. I'm going to be monitoring things very closely, and the things over the first 24 hours of land is going to be a number of things that we're going to look at. Now, I want to also make a comment here. There's been this, I guess, misconception out there that people think when it comes to land, because I created a video talking about my day 1 strategy, that I'm never going to farm research tokens and I'm just going to ignore that part of land. That is completely false. That's people not understanding English, apparently, or me speaking too quickly, because what it comes down to with land is dynamic. You can change what you're harvesting with a click of a button, and it takes 24 hours to switch it. So if, for example, Matt comes on a town square or town hall and says, hey, when magic lands are going to starting tomorrow, give every player that farms research tokens $5 in credits in the game. Well, guess what? I'm gonna go into my land, my magical lands, and spin them up and farm research tokens to get that benefit. And it's gonna take me a whole 24 hours to do that. So it's going to be okay. I've mentioned it in my other strategy video that research tokens are going to be important, and I'll be farming them. So just want to throw that out there because there seems to be this misperception out there that I think land or research tokens are bad. I don't think they're bad. I just don't think I'm going to be farming any on day 1. So what am I going to be looking at on day 2 specifically? Well, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be, well, learning how to spell the start, because understand is not the same thing as understand. But that being what it is, I'm going to do a better job at spell checking my graphics on land day 2. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be understanding my starting daily SPS harvest income. I'm going to want to understand very quickly with the land workers and allocation of assets that I put on my land, how much SPS that's going to generate on that first harvest, right? And I'm going to calculate how much that's going to generate in the first 24 hours, because it's going to tell me that's going to be my peak earnings for SPS on land. And it's only going to go down over time. Now, if that daily SPS harvest income is very positive and looks very strong, I'll continue farming as much SPS for as long as I can at the current rate that I'm farming, and I might even actually divert some grain, backlog or excess grain into farming and switching stuff to more SPS perhaps. On the other hand, if the SPS income on the 24 hours for the first 24 hours of land is not looking very positive and it's underwhelming, that's going to say a lot as well for land in my strategy moving forward. And I might adjust things to, for example, other things like research or grain in that case, if I don't see the returns that I would expect from SPS. So number one thing I'm going to do is understand what that daily SPS harvest income is looking like. I'm going to calculate some APRs versus the cost and see if I need to change any of the balance of my land. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to monitor the card market prices. Specifically, I'm going to monitor card market prices for those land workers that I've kind of identified as things that I want to focus on to buy for my land. And the question that I'm going to ask myself is I'm going to have a good idea of the land card worker prices before land 1.5, and then subsequently I'm going to monitor it after land goes live. Now, depending on what those card prices do, if they go up by a lot or if they stay the same, that will determine if I am a seller of cards or a buyer of cards. Because again, just because land is released doesn't mean the optimal strategy is to beef up your land or play the land game. A viable strategy to get ahead in Splinterlands when land is released could be to sell into the FOMO, right? Not always buy the FOMO. So I'm going to be monitoring the card market prices to understand what is the optimal strategy as it pertains to land workers and cards that I may not want to necessarily hold long term. Maybe they become sell candidates for me. Now, the other things I'm going to be doing is I'm going to monitor the Chaos Legion pack prices and the values of those cards in those packs. I do have a number of unopened Chaos Legion packs sitting on the sidelines. Now, the question that I'm going to ask myself, depending on what Chaos Legion pack prices do on the secondary market and also what the card values for Chaos Legion cards do, I'm going to make a decision on if I'm going to open packs to maybe get more land workers through that route. For example, if maybe the card prices go through the roof, maybe I can't afford to buy cards, maybe I need to open packs instead to get land workers. That could be a scenario. Or maybe the card pack prices get to a level where I feel comfortable selling some and reinvesting those proceeds into some other aspect of Splinterlands that might be dipping, like maybe SPS, for example. So I'm going to be monitoring Chaos Legion pack prices. Now, I know this is a land strategy for day 2, but again, you're going to see here a lot of what I'm doing does pertain to land, but it also pertains to Splinterlands as an ecosystem as a whole, because this is going to be a fundamental shift that we're going to see in the game, and those that are astute and paying attention are going to benefit the most from those changes. Now, this next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to monitor card rental market prices. I have before and after snapshots that I'm going to be taking of the card rental market for specific cards that I have in my collection. And I have some cards actually sitting on the sidelines that I don't have working land, and these are kind of land clearing cards that I set aside. And I will look at those cards and determine if I want to rent them out, put them on land, or do something else with them. And the rental market prices in the first maybe 24 to 72 hours will dictate what I do with those cards, because it might be more advantageous for me to rent out cards rather than put them on land. If, for example, 99% of people are putting cards on land and taking cards off the rental market, there may be an arbitrage opportunity where I could get some really good returns in the rental market while other people are focused on land. Again, not every choice you make for your land strategy will necessarily benefit your land production. It could benefit production elsewhere in Splinterlands. Now, other things I'll be doing is I'm going to monitor the peer-to-peer grain market and prices, because like I said, if the grain prices are more beneficial for me to sell grain peer-to-peer versus use the grain to ramp up my SPS production points, well, that would be something I would be interested in. And that's where you want to understand your value that you can calculate on your SPS production versus your grain sell prices. So this will be something I will also be looking at very closely on day 1 and 2. Now, I'm also going to be monitoring what happens with SPS and DEC token prices during this very volatile time here in Splinterlands. If you watch my video that I just released today that talks about the possible boomerang effect of SPS, you'll know that I think there's going to be some possible opportunities around both SPS and DEC, but specifically SPS, that I might want to take advantage of. And to do that, I need to have assets available, and things like grain or other cards could be ways that I free up assets for other areas of the game. Now, other things that I will be doing, I'm going to be obviously evaluating buying additional land workers or additional DEC to bring more of my land online. For example, if I'm seeing great returns on the SPS side, and those are funding possibly land workers at prices that are reasonable still, well, that could be an easy path to bringing more of my land online and getting more rewards over time. So I'm going to evaluate that as an option as well. And then this next option was talked about briefly here in chat. I'm going to evaluate either activating or buying a land clearing crew. As I mentioned, I have a number of common natural plots as well, excuse me, as well as magical common plots that are going to be uncleared, which is not, well, clear, pun intended, if I want to buy time crystals or if I want to clear them with monsters and spend the time in the grain. If I want to clear them, I'm going to want to have a dedicated group of land monsters or cards that I can allocate to that clearing process. That's going to be quick, efficient, and it's not going to penalize me by the element choices that I have on those clearing crews. So that's going to be something that I'm going to evaluate as well for day 1 and day 2 of my land strategy. And this last point that I'm going to leave you with here for my day 2 land strategy is I'm going to evaluate the cost of unlocking Soulbound reward card gold foils, specifically gold foil legendaries and epics in my collection, to see if it's cost effective or if it makes sense to spend the vouchers and the DEC to unlock those cards and put them on land. Now, for me in principle, I don't want to pay for cards that I've already earned. That seems like a bad idea, especially because in the future, the cost of unlocking Soulbound reward cards could go down, and I don't think Splinterlands is going to give me a refund or a rebate if I overpaid to unlock cards for use on land. So I don't really want to unlock Soulbound reward cards, but if the rewards are such in land that it makes sense for me to go through, for example, if I go to my cards here and I look at gold foil, legendaries, epics here, you can see I've got a good amount here that are duplicates compared to the regular foil. I've got a maxed a soot. Let's see, what do I have for legendaries? Can I sort on that? I've got a maxed Ava. I've got a maxed Barracks. These are all duplicates. I have the regular foils leveled up as well. So I could immediately put, looks like 3 or 4, because I have almost another full Ava ready to go. So I could put a bunch of these gold foil legendaries on land potentially if I was willing to pay the cost to unlock them. And these generate a decent amount of production points. If we look at the land production point calculator here, those gold foil legendaries are going to generate 10,000 production points, which is significant. And now again, it's going to be cheaper for me to unlock those cards than it is for me to buy gold foil legendaries in the card market, because those are at least $50 a BCX right now. And it's going to cost probably less than that to unlock them. Again, the question is, are the rewards such where it makes sense for me to pay that price to get the benefits of those production points on day 2 of land? So these are some of my things that I'm going to be doing as part of my personal day 2 land strategy, things that I'm going to be monitoring, things I'm going to be analyzing and making actions based on how things play out. I hope this information and this thought process has been beneficial. We're going to talk about it here in chat. I want to learn some of your land strategy tips and tricks as well. Maybe I can add some of your ideas to my strategy as we go into land here very soon.
That's entertainment.